And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today I'm taking a look at Subdivision from Bezier Games. This looks a lot like Suburbia, but it's not. It's a completely different designer, a completely different kind of game, even though it does have the same theme. This is more about planning the city than actually building a city, kind of zoning a city out. And it's a much shorter, easier, and really kind of abstracted type game. Let's see how fun it is. Each player has a board, and you have two sides of your board, so you can pick either one. The main difference is here there's a road that comes down the middle, and here a road goes around. You are trying to connect as many of your tiles to that road at the end of the game. Any tile that you have that's connected, that's next to that road is worth 5 points, or that's connected via road. So like if I have a road that goes all the way up here to this area, that's going to give me a bonus of 5 points. Or if I have empty spaces. However, I want to cover up as many of these empty spaces as I can, because you'll notice most of them are negatives. There's only this one positive 2 in the middle. Now each round of the game, players are going to be getting a handful of tiles here. And they're going to be looking at these tiles, and they're going to be taking one. Everyone's going to play it, and then you'll pass 4 around the table until you've played the tiles. To play a tile, a die will be rolled, and that shows you where you can play that particular tile. So that one lets me play it on one of the pink diamonds on the board, so I might play a tile here. Now you're supposed to play all of them so that they're all facing towards you. You can't rotate them in different directions. And each tile is going to do different things when you place them, but I'll get to that in a minute. But you can cover up these spots. If you don't like the shape that was rolled in the die, you can pay $2 and put it wherever you want, or for free you can always put it on your +2 spot. Of course, you're taking away 2 points that you might score at the end of the game. Now when you place a tile, it actually doesn't do anything the first time you place it. But when you place a tile next to another tile, you activate that tile. So if these two tiles were here, for example, and I place this tile here, I would activate both of those tiles, and I would get to do whatever those tiles allowed me to do. So what the tiles allow you to do is pretty simple. Residential tiles like this one allow you to build a school adjacent to them. Now schools are worth nothing, but if you can get another school on top of that one by either activating that one again or activating another residential area next to it, it's still worth nothing. But if you get 3, then the school is full blown, and at the end of the game it's going to be worth 8 points. If you activate one of these civic centers, that will build a park in any of the directions it shows. So I could build a park all the way up here, for example. At the end of the game, a park will give me 1 point for every tile that's next to it, except other parks. Likewise, activating these purple tiles will allow me to put out a blue, a lake token somewhere in a diagonal line from that. Lake tokens will give you $1 for each tile that they're next to, and in the future if you build tiles next to them, you'll get $1 every time that happens, except for other lake tiles. Then there's these construction tiles that allow you to build roads that are up to 2 spaces away. And then finally these blue tiles here let you build these little sidewalks. At the end of the game, you're going to take your longest sidewalk and multiply it times the number of different of these regular tiles, these civic tiles that it touches, and you can get, I think, up to 20 points that way. At the end of each era, you're going to look at a bonus tile. There's a whole pile of bonus tiles that are chosen for each era. So let's say after era 2, anybody who has 6 sidewalks here is going to get 2 coins. Or here, at the end, in the 4th era, anybody who has 4 lakes gets to activate one of these different buildings for free. So these will be randomly picked and put on the top of each of the different piles, because there's 4 main rounds of the game. After 4 rounds, you're going to score, and I've already told you pretty much all the different ways to score, through the different parks, through the sidewalks that you have, through groups of 3 school buildings, for having buildings attached to the different roads, and whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. Now, I think some people are going to come into Subdivision looking for a Suburbia-like experience, and that's not fair. Suburbia is actually one of my favorite games that I've ever played. I think it's an absolutely fantastic game. It's very high up on my top 100 list. Subdivision is a very different game, and I think it's going to be hurt from that comparison. But at the same time, I think one of the saving grace of Subdivision is its length. The box says 45 minutes, but I really think it can narrow that down to 30. The game doesn't take very long to play at all, and I think that if it was longer, it would outstay its welcome. I mean, at first you're like, what? You're rolling a die to see where you put pieces? But that really works well in this game because you roll the die, you're placing pieces. It has almost like a take it easy feel to it where you're trying to make sure you have everything out there and maximize your points. At the same time, you can pay $2 to put something everywhere, but at the end of the game, you get a half point for every $2 you have. So you don't want to spend money too much because money is kind of points. But you need to know what stuff to cover up and when. You want to cover up as many of those -3s as you possibly can. You want to build schools, but you're going to probably have to concentrate. In one game, I built a whole pile of schools. Another game, my only goal was to connect everything to roads. That was my whole goal of it. And each strategy seems to be very well balanced. I think the game's very well balanced, and it plays kind of in an abstract way. I mean, when I was the schools, I was the lord of the schools and had an educated city of wonder. And I role-played it up, but it really does have kind of an abstract feel to it. The only part I wasn't real keen on was putting out those little sidewalks around. And the reason for that was they're so... In a game where everything seems pretty easy to explain, they're just a little complex, convoluted to explain. I mean, when I'm looking over all the points here, the number of unique zone tile types adjacent to one of your sidewalks multiplied times the number of unique improvement tile types adjacent to that same sidewalk. Only score one sidewalk segment, 20 points maximum per player. It's just a little complicated to put all that out compared to the rest of the game. But the rest of the game plays very smoothly and has a very good look to it. I think it has a very distinct audience. To me, this is like not a filler per se, but a game that's fairly light, but actually has some good choices, tactical choices to make over the course of the game. I think it's a fine game. It doesn't even come close to rising to the levels of Castle Mad King Ludwig or Suburbia, but it's a good, not an introductory game, but kind of like the next step game. Once you've got someone to play a gateway game, this might be a game I would introduce them to next. While the theme isn't super strong, at the same time, the theme does work well with this. So definitely one I think people should check out at least and try it once to see if this might be something you're interested in. That's Subdivision.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door! Shut the door!
Shut the door!